What's up, guys? Here we are today. We're going to end up swapping our 8.4-inch radio to the 12-inch display on the 2020 Cummins 2500. Here we have the selection of the parts that we're going to need to complete the job and do it appropriately. Here we have our trim bezel, we have the radio display, the radio itself, which goes behind all of this, but we just need this in order to make it work. We have an adapter cable that goes from the original harness into the back of the radio to repin it, and then we have the Fokker cable that goes through there from the radio into the screen, so that way you can actually see what's going on. This is the adapter bracket that goes for the top stabilization in there. That'll go through with that. You're going to need 11 of these screws here, and then your tools. It's going to be a 7/8, a T15, a T20, quarter-inch bit. So with all that, here's just kind of our start of the parts layout. There are different options as far as this. With this one here, because it'll match my truck, it has the gray, and then it has the molten metal, is what they call it, on top. There are different types of wood grains. There's plain black, there's carbon fiber, there's other different types of graphics that are available for this, but I went with this one so that way it would match my truck. Alright, so what you're going to want to start with is actually going to be take this and flip this over, so that way we can put our little upper support tab into these 3 bolts up here. You just want to take it, 4 bolts, place it in there. There are 2 guide pins that are here and here for that. And just take your bolts here, screw them in place. These are an 8mm. Okay, so now that those 4 are tight, just so that way you know that these are all on 8mm. So there's that. Also, they are the same bolts that are going to be able to hold this to this as well. So the next step, slide this up here a little bit better. Just take this, and there's a slot right here. Slide everything in place. There are 4 guide studs here, and then here's this little duckbill that's in there. You know you have it right because the top piece, you'll see a couple of open holes on either side there. So go ahead and run the remainder of the 8mm bolts in place. Alright, now that they're all in place, you don't really have to go super tight with them because you're just basically holding it kind of snug against it. But now we have that taken care of, flip this over, and it's in place. So now our next step is to actually remove the original radio and swap our little switch panel here at the bottom in place with our original into this, and then we can start working on getting the radio and the couple cables in. This is a fairly straightforward plug and play kind of operation with this. There are subtle differences with the radios as well. So this one here, because I have a diesel, it has the traction control button up here and the 4-way flashers up here. For those of you that have the active lane assist, that would be in this button up here.
Now the guys with the gas trucks, this will not have that up there. So there's that. The 1500s are a little bit different as well. So just make sure that you go through the options of what you have with your truck and make sure that you buy the correct radio display for the options you have.
Okay, so now that we're in the truck, I did have a river grid here installed for my trailer camera and the phone mount. I went ahead and I removed that, but up top what you're going to have is basically two T20s that look like that. Just take them out. One's going to be right here, one's going to be right there. Just unscrew them till they're all the way out. And then what you're going to want to do next is actually you're going to want to grab the top down into where this cubby hole is. Grab with both hands and just give it a little tug. Might be a little tight, but it will come. One. There we go. What you're going to want to do is fish that out around your shifter. You're going to want to kind of lay that back a little bit, but be very careful. I'll move you around here so that way you can actually see the back side, what you're going to need to do, so that way it will come apart for you as far as the cables and whatnot. Okay, now that we're on the back, we have a 12 volt here. You just kind of want to push in a little bit right on this side, and that'll release it. I'll just come right off. Right there, that little blue tab. Just push in on that. It'll be fine. Up here, you have your other two Fokker connectors. Now you want to be very careful when you remove these, is to not break the ends. So just take your time with that. Just kind of give it a light wiggle. It should swing right out. Now what I like to do sometimes is I will stick a pick or a screwdriver and just press on the lever. There. Sometimes you hear a little pop, sometimes you won't. But you do have to fight with these a little bit. There is another one down underneath here, it's red. Same thing. Pushing on that. Pull straight out. USB cable, same thing. Then you're going to have your other controls here that we're going to hook it or unhook here in a little bit. This is your main radio wire. So we're just going to push in on this little tab, swing out, come right out. And just kind of work your way down to the bottom. So there's that. Remember, green is for radio, blue is for your trailer brake control. You can switch them. They are almost an identical plug. So just make sure that you're really paying attention to how that goes. So we have a little piece of green tape. This one has a little piece of blue tape. Same thing, just to press the safety locks, get them out of the way. Carefully pull it back to the side. So there's that. This one is free. So now what we can do is we can actually get into transferring this bottom switch panel over. It's going to be 4 T15s, and that will just screw right back in place. I'm sorry, on this truck it's only 2 T15s. On the 12-inch display it'll be 4. Okay, so now that we have the radio out of the truck, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull this lower switch panel out. So let's move this one to the side, slide this one over, and let's take it out. So it's going to be 2 T15 screws. Now that they are out, there's a few tabs here. There's 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. You just kind of want to lift a little bit. Sort of push down. And just gently push it out of the way. You don't want to go too crazy and drop it and break your switch panel. That would kind of suck. All right, so we'll do that, set that there, place this to the side. Take these. Move that a little closer for us. And you just kind of want to take this, line it up, pretty much pop in place and it'll stay there. And flip it over. And then you're going to have the 2 screws that you took out before, plus these 2 extra ones here. You're going to need to put in. These screws are just going into plastic, so you don't have to go super He-Man tight with it. But there's those. Grab my little ratchet just to get the last couple turns out of it. Okay. Now that they're in, you can actually take our little adapter cable here. This is going to go right into the back of the radio, so that way you don't forget it. And then this is just going to go and connect to the original harness in the truck. Okay, so now that everything is out of the way, you're actually going to need to get 4 little metal clips in here, the little spring clips that have little bolts that hold them in. I only have 2, so all you're going to need to do is do that, get those, and then these 2 little 7mm screws here, so that way they'll thread in, and then that'll hold the radio in place. I am probably going to get the other 2 just so that way I have them to hold it more securely in place down the road. But for now, just for the process of getting this done, this is kind of where my intention is. So I'm going to grab the radio, and then I will start hooking things up, and then I can show you what you're going to need to hook in. All right, so first things first, you're going to want to grab the blue 4-way Plakra connector. We're going to plug that in, so that way that's in place. And this is just going to come out around after you hook it in. So these are labeled already: radio antenna, satellite GPS, and the camera, which are the 3 different colors that we pulled here. Our USB is going to go into this slot here, and then our big connector is going to go right there. Now this is a Bluetooth connector here for an extra antenna that's right up here. If you decide that you want to do that, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. I'm not going to put it in. It should work just fine. But if I do have issues, obviously I will. So okay, take your white, match it to the white. These all are pretty well color coded. And then we're going to have our mustard or yellow. They call it mustard in the catalog. And then you're going to have the red, which is going to go to the red here for the camera. I don't know why these red ones always like to fight me so much. There it is. Okay, USB. Put that in the right spot. Put it right in place. Just that. Now, I'm gonna have to kind of sort this harness out a little bit, so that way it's not all tangled together. We are gonna have to kind of separate this when we route it through. So 12 volt, we are gonna want to make sure that it stays up here, because it's gonna come out up top. I have had to where I've put these in before, and I've had them underneath. I had to take it all back apart, just from a silly mistake. So just trying to let you guys know, or give you guys the fair warning that, you know, pay attention to that, so that way you don't run into the issues like I did. Not that it's that big of a deal, but it's just kind of annoying, especially when you're like ready to get it all back together, and then you have to reseat everything. Okay, get that cable out of the way. Take this one. Just carefully line it up. And put it in place. And there it is. Clicks in place. Alright, so now that we have these guys, we know that these go to the lower control switch panel, and then this one goes to the display. So let's get this one. Actually, I'll route that underneath there with those, because that'll actually put about the right length for everything. We're just gonna carefully slide this in place. We can move that back out of the way. Just kind of spin your wires, just so that way they can kind of cleanly place themselves out of the way. And then that will kind of rest in place, just like that. You take your screws, start them by hand. Driver. Screw them in. Now we can get the display screen. We can set that in place. The new switch panel, and then we're going to have to pull the cluster out, so that way we can get access to the security gateway module in order to change some of our sales codes and features, so that way that'll work. So I will get the radio set in the rest of the way. So I will go ahead and I will pull the cluster, and I will get the radio set in place, and we will make these connections. And okay, so now that we have that, here's our radio screen. Let's go ahead. Let's might have to rest it on your leg. Okay, now 2 connectors is our last Fakra. and our power outlet. Just be careful with the faucet connectors because they are a little delicate and they will break. There's that. And our 12-volt power. Now we can just kind of set this in place. Make sure it fits good. Don't press on the screen. There's that. There's that. So, this is what it looks like with the 12-inch display. It's a little dirty, has some fingerprints on it. I don't think it's going to turn on, but it may. I don't think it is until we do our... Okay, so now that we have the cluster out of the way, there's a couple wires here, or a couple connectors here.
Lay it off to the side. Just be gentle with it. What you're going to need to do is reach down in here in the back and grab these two connectors right here. It's a 12 and an 8 for the security gateway. What I have is one of these. Just basically the same thing as what you would have for the connectors on the security gateway. You just kind of want to plug them in. Make sure they're secure. That way you can use that to bypass the security gateway. Now there's a couple different ways that you could do it. You can get it to where it has a regular OBD connector with it and plug it into the splice block, which would be fine. But this is just the one I decided to use. And then our next one here is the OBD Link MX Plus. This one here is going to run the Alpha OBD. So I will set this up, I will put the codes in, and then we can try to get this fired up here. So I'll be back. Okay, so now that we have everything in place, we have the cluster out, we have the security gateway bypass installed. I went through and I changed my settings. You want to set the ICS to disabled because it doesn't have the knobs and everything down here anymore. It's all part of the radio. And then the other one that you want to change would be the DC SD. That way it will allow it to show for the separate screen, so that way everything's on. I went ahead and I pulled the radio fuse. Where the radio fuse is on the 2500s is below the fuse box. It is a 20 amp. There's two underneath there. There's one that's a 2 amp and then there's another one that's a 20 amp. You just want to go ahead and pull that fuse out and wait a couple minutes. Go ahead and plug it back in, obviously with the key off. Go through and do it that way, and then you'll be all set. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to turn it on, and everything should work as intended. Just going to take a minute to load. Let's actually go ahead and head to the home here, and we have all this kind of stuff here. So we have the radio, all that kind of mess. So yeah, looks like the phone's actually trying to go up here. So let's go into the climate. We have the climate off. Let's go ahead and hit the on. Well, the truck may not allow it. So let's start it. There we go. Now we have the climate on. Everything works the same. We have the nice slide here. It changes all the buttons. Temperatures, both sides. You have recirc. That works. You can actually see here it lights up on the side, AC,
That does as well. Let's hit auto. Okay, we have the auto. Front, rear defrost. Perfect. So screen off button, use that. Touch screen to turn on. That works. You have the volume button here that works. Tuner. Not going to really be able to do that because I have the Bluetooth already connected to this, so we're ready to go there. Now it does have navigation. It's probably going to take a little bit for it to pop up because I'm in my garage and it hasn't had that much of a chance to kind of calibrate where everything is. So that will go through here once it has a couple sleep cycles. We'll go from there. Backup camera, we have that. Now I don't have the trailer camera on this one. I do, but it didn't show up as a feature. So we can't really change anything that way. So we just have to wait for that feature to kind of come back for it to work. Overall, this is a pretty successful installation. So I will go ahead and put this all back together and show you the finished product.
So it's been a couple days since I've had this installed. Kind of went through, got a couple sleep cycles and stuff like that that it's gone through. Some of the features have come back. Let me go ahead and start this up and I'll show you. So we have the wake up screen as usual. So we've been able to go through and get things to work. The backup cam has actually showed up, so I can click on that. There's your regular backup camera. You can zoom in, and then also cargo camera there as well. That works as it should. All these little extra things here in the middle showed up. Heated seat. Let's see here. Some of the apps have gotten a little bit more populated. I'm not totally sure which ones, but I don't know that I have seen a couple more. One thing that has not changed, like I had mentioned, is the navigation. It's still out. Have to figure out what's going on with that. But at this point, we are good to go with what I need. So I'm very happy with it. And I guess I'll see you guys on the next one.